Mr. Paul Graham on Twitter told us that he would. Um, I think he said he got an email.
From
Yes, from
Nigeria.
someone. No, he didn't say it was, if it was Nigerian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
So,
actually don't got the full
but he said he
gist.
got an email from someone, and the person used the word delve.
Delve.
Normally, he does not like that word, but then he felt that person used ChatGPT to drive that email because of the word delve.
Delve.
And then my fellow Nigerians, right, saw that tweet and they were like,
On a
delve?
public holiday.
Yeah, it's on a public holiday, you know. And they were like, delve? Like, you mean delve? Delve is
As it
one big
to delve.
vocabulary like that. And, you know, the conversation started going from, people who are not native English speakers use different kinds of words because of how they learned English. And then there were lots of arguments back and forth. Stones were thrown, people were hit. And today,
They even dragged Paul
Yeah, Paul
about the
was
fact
dragged.
that they said it was people's rejection at White Seas was what they used to pay back.
that's
for.
possible.
Our
That's
GDP
possible.
also-
Because some people
our
took it.
GDP
Some people
also
took it
took
too
it.
far.
Yeah, they think personally like
Yeah,
you are
yeah.
rejecting us, so let's
Yeah,
just
all right.
give it
Yeah,
to you.
but I think one takeaway from everything that happened just goes to show that we probably need our own AI strategy. We need to play an active role in the development of AI. AI is one technology that is growing super, super fast. Dr. Olumide, it's so great that we have you on the podcast today to help us shed some light on some of these happenings. So, in your own opinion, right, what really what would you say was the reason for all that back and forth? Some people say is because the AI was trained by people in third world countries, this, that. What would you say is the reason why people would think the word delve, right, is written by AI?
So, I followed that conversation slightly.
Okay.
Um, if we, I think that there are two ways to look at it. You know, you look at the word itself, delve, and you're like, oh my God, this is by an AI, right? Somebody in the US will say, oh my God, we don't use that in regular speech, so whatever, this has to be generated by an AI. But here in Nigeria, it's a word that we use all the time.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've really gotten to see, and I don't mean this in a very bad way, or I don't mean to throw shades or throw my own stones. I see that over time, over time, I've traveled all around, and I have come to realize that most of us who have to do things like IELTS or you want to study abroad, engage in all these things. We have a wider vocabulary from a written perspective. A lot of times we are better writers, we use more words, we use a lot of words, expand sheets, we try to,
Yeah.
use all of those words.
Inculcate.
I,
That one cost trouble.
yeah, I mean,
Enough.
I was a kid when I was using the word aggrandize. It's like,
You are AI
yeah.
then.
Yeah.
So there is that, right? But then there's also a larger conversation of separating AI text from human text
Okay.
or human generated text. So I'd side with both sides. So when you say the word delve, then it has to speak a bit to the vocabulary. If the word delve is automatic reflector of it being written by an AI. But I can tell you for sure, and maybe Paul Graham didn't, craft it in the way that he should have, is especially if you build these things or you are in the AI industry, you know a text that is written by an AI and the one that is written by a regular person.
True.
Like there's some differences in structure. There are certain things that you feel like a regular Joe wouldn't have the patience to craft, and then you see it crafted in a way like that. And the problem with that is, um, and especially from a VC perspective, VCs have also relied on the intuition of how you put together the words you use, how you put everything together as a reflector of a certain level of your intelligence.
Mm.
Now that is out because AI can now help you do
True.
something that is really good. Everybody is now on the same level. So they struggle. I think Paul is struggling with the fact that it is now difficult for him to say, oh, this is a beautiful deck with beautiful words, with beautiful
Mm.
ideas, clearly written, that says, oh yeah,
Final excuse.
you can articulate it. Yeah. No, I mean, but he's struggling with that fact, and a lot of people are. To be honest, I recently taught a class, and people were supposed to write something, and I really at some point couldn't tell the difference about those people who understood it and those who didn't understand it. And I had to rely on the people that, were straight to just use ChatGPT to generate implicitly as maybe they didn't really understand it, right? So I get that. But when you say delve is the singular reflector,
Mm.
then there's an issue.
Interesting. Interesting. Mika, do you use Delve often?
No, actually, so surprisingly, that day I wasn't on Twitter at all. I was working. I
Mm.
just said it, and like almost like the first set of tweet I was saying, everybody's deving. I'm like, what's happening? Then I saw Asamata's tweet about searching his own history
Yeah,
to
he
see the
didn't
word there,
find.
and I did mine too, and I discovered I did not find it. And I don't think I've even used the word dev in a conversation before. I am not sure, but I really doubt that.
I don't think I use it that often too.
Dev,
But with the fact that I don't use it that often, it is not one big word to me. It's
Delve.
something I feel people use.
Yeah,
It,
I've had people use it, but I have
exactly.
not used it. So I've had people
I'm
use
searching
it.
because we use it very. I don't know. I don't. I can't say for
I
sure, but
use
I'm sure
delve a
to say.
lot.
Uh, all right. So
Yeah,
one
a
thing.
lot.
Yeah. But one thing that came out of this whole conversation is the fact that we need to start playing a role in the creation of AI. All right, we need our
In
own
Africa.
strategy, yes, in Africa, because if you look at it, most of the innovations, development, they're not even coming from Africa. If we are to be honest,
Mhm.
it's mostly coming from the US and I think a bit from Europe.
Europe.
Yeah. So do you really think this means that we need to start creating our own AI strategies, our own AI companies?
Of course, definitely. That is a conversation I've been having for the last 2 years. How we need to get on top of this, in front of this, right? You're going to, and this is a clear example. Now, somebody might have written it, might not have been. Let's assume the person is Nigerian
Mm,
and the person is like me, uses Delve a lot, right? The person is used to, because at some point in my life, I used to be a writer. So a person is used to written text. I used to do poetry,
mm,
is used to those words, putting a lot of complex words together to mean something or mean different things. Now imagine the person sends maybe a write up to Paul Graham. He says, nah, this is not a human that did this, is a machine.
mm,
And it now comes us to understand that here in Africa, we have a way that we do our own things. And the way that we create these AIs, if I'm going to oversimplify it, right, it is what we call an approximation of the data that it is shown. So, right, it tries to learn the entire support of data that it is shown. And if
okay.
it is much more heavy or biased towards, foreign text, it's going to want to sound like that. If it is biased towards Indian text, it's going to want to sound like that. But there are native problems that we have that we need the data to be reflective of our reality. And the only way that we can do that is if we begin to, talk about our AI strategy from how do we collect data, how do we store data, how do we store
Mm,
history, because right now it comes to a larger conversation of how are we cataloging our history, because it is from this history that we're able to create models that help us, not models that help the world, models that help us solve our own problems, right? That take our own constraints into account. Um, Something might be a problem, or I would say bus stops. Let's talk about the mapping, for instance. Bus stops might not be um, as movable in the US as they are in Nigeria, right? Bus stops can be here today, boom, the bus stops disappear, the bus stop moved the 5 miles or 5 kilometers off, or something happened, somebody, decided to build something So we are much more malleable to a lot of things, and we need to start cataloging our own data that is a reflection of how we talk, how we speak, how we engage, how we do things, and can also help us solve our own problems. Also, how we look. I was looking at somebody was driving, so my phone is permanently on French, but I was in someone's car, and then the person was driving with Google Maps, and 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 then Google Maps was trying to sound Nigerian. And then there's just some things just like, nah, man.
Mm.
Nah, this is not it. I'm sorry, it's not it. Or movies. And maybe that has come from, movies trying to, trying to help us replicate our culture in movies, and they're doing a very bad job of it. So we need to
True.
understand how we catalog our data, catalog our history, then we need policies in this place. We need to take the bull by the horn ourselves, because it's we can only create value from, in a sense, localized data. I know that a lot of people tend to think about globalization, but I am from the perspective of, globalization solves a lot of things, but there's certain solutions that have to be local. You have to think local,
Okay.
and you can only
Yeah.
do that if you're coming from Nigeria.
Yeah. But okay. So I think I recently heard someone say, like, for Africa to create their own um the LLMs or foundational models, right? It will take, I think, around $200 million, right? So in your estimation, what do you think? So besides money, right? I'm sure money is probably one of
Mm,
the biggest things that will help us right now. But besides that, what do you think
mm.
it will take for us to create these things that you've said?
I mean, so there's a lot of give and take here. So I don't even see money as, I mean, $200 million Nigeria can raise it. That's not an issue. But then how do you reuse it, right? In my mind, right now we have this law that says banking data has to be domiciled in Nigeria. Fine. So if you build a data plan around that, where you now start to have sponsored GPU centers, data centers. You have maybe a couple of data centers around. Then you can start to look at how do we nationalize this, or how do we prioritize it, or push private organizations to be able to build this. In a way, you start to localize, the building of your LLMs. Then you need a policy around how you catalog data, and we need to get back to our archives. How do you archive data? How do you I have a friend who is doing a very beautiful job working on archive.ng, which is basically an archive of all Nigerian newspapers.
Oh, okay.
But basically, you need such, along every other, and I think he's working to catalog from 1960 till now. It's a huge amount of work that he's doing. And the question is, how do you push in this direction? How do you catalog? And there's a lot of work there: videos, sound, audio from 1960, history, policy. How do you catalog all of that? You need a policy around that. We need to prop up I didn't even know Nigeria had an archiving center until I was talking to him.
Mm.
We need to start work around that. That is the data policies. From the training, you need to work on how do you create your GPU centers. Then we need to get back to our schools and start to teach people early, right? We need to make sure that people start to learn. There are a lot of no, these are policies I think that we need to start right now. It might start to yield fruit in 5 years, but we need to start now, and we need to look at it from both how do you build the LLMs, and how do you or models, and how do you catalog data.
Nice, nice. Wow, that's a lot of work. I think that's why Inka's guy, Bosun Tijani, has been really heavy
I'll have to
on.
call him.
He's the guy now. I think that's why he has
Well,
been
he
really
recently
heavy.
did a committee for
Yes.
AI strategy
Yeah, more of like a
implementing
workshop where 120 experts will come together, like, create a strategy.
and AI is part
Mm,
of
Yeah,
what they are going to be talking
exactly.
about.
Yeah, so he's doing a lot of work. I mean, we
yeah.
have to. Okay, Onome, why is Onome looking at me like that? Did Babasu Tijani do something to you? Yeah, but I mean, we have to recognize that we've not seen the results yet. This is he's executing some of the plans that he has laid out. So I guess when we see the results, we now know
No, we just
if those plans were actually good plans or not. But I mean, like Dr. Olumide said,
and
I
even
mean, it's a lot of work,
even
and
at
we need
the-
to start working on
even
it.
at the end of the day, before it's going to be
Yeah.
a case of let's implement the plan that is a product from this workshop, but it's going to be a case of and still engaging. I believe it should be a product, still engaging guys like Dr. Olumide that is doing
Yeah,
work
it's
in
true.
this
Are you one of those 20,
to
120
get
experts?
no, it's not. I don't
I think
so.
it should.
No.
It's not. It's
Why?
not. So engage. So
No,
that's what I'm saying.
no.
Engaging
Yeah,
people
we
that
need
are
to-
actually in that field, not just a case of yes. You have big names there. You have the likes of Funke Okpeke. You
Okay.
have
I think they are foreigners too. Yeah.
God is good. What else?
Oh, okay.
And stuff like that.
But those are not AI experts.
Oh well, they
But I
in
mean, they are tech
space.
experts, so
yes,
they might
but then
know, yeah.
having people that are actually in the AI space will really help.
That will
And
go a
then
way.
though they might not be there now, but before you actually implement whatever is come up, is now engaging those people like, okay, yes, this is what we want to do. Then they might have another insight that will help the implementation. At the end of the day, we achieve what we want to achieve.
Yeah, that's so. I think one thing I just want to mention this. I think when Bosun Tijani made the announcement, a lot of people were like, "Why are you focusing on AI when you should focus on electricity? We have other problems." But I mean, obviously, we
Well, it's
can
not the Minister of Power.
Yeah, it's not. So we can
so-
actually do these things. Who knows? Maybe AI might solve our electricity problem.
Okay. Should
But-
put off your
Yeah,
No,
put
no,
off- put
I
off your-
agree.
Yeah, you agree with me, right? I'm
Yeah,
making
I
sense.
agree. Yeah, I mean, I was at an AI conference in Abuja, and then somebody was making the argument, "Oh, why would you say AI? We don't have lights. We don't have lights." And my argument is, we generate a finite amount of power right now, and if you see what the work that was done in AI in the UK, where they were able to use AI to reduce power consumption. It's something that we can. So it's like,
No.
I mean, so if we say right now, how can we use AI for efficient distribution? We might be able to maximize the utility of what we have
True.
right now
But then
before we even say we want to generate more.
our question, the problem is not about distribution. It's actually about generation. We are not generating enough in the first place.
Okay, we are not generating enough. But what you're saying is,
I
what if that little you are generating, you're able to maximize it, right?
I mean, it's still not
with the
going
help
to
of
be
AI.
enough.
Exactly.
It's still not going to be enough. So the thing is, I don't think it's an either or case,
Okay,
right? We can do everything at the same time.
exactly.
Hopefully, we
It's a
can do
chicken
everything
and
at the
egg.
same time because you
If you
don't
don't have,
have,
you can't give.
you don't have. I mean, he's not your minister of power. If you need to have that conversation, you go meet your minister of power.
Well, they say you
But-
should be put you off your fridge. So
You need to find that man and beat him. I mean, anyway, I turned off my fridge this morning, sha, but yeah,
it seems you guys are you're in band aid when you're talking about.
I don't even know if you have band.
I don't even know the
with
band
the
yet,
bad
but
at me, my fridge is always on.
But
Because you don't know when
think
they will
it's-
take light and you will not see it again. And you have to be using
what, the
generator to power
yeah.
your appliances.
There's not really an either or case. So the way I think about it is the Nigerian economy is like it's in the gutters right now, right? No one is telling the CBN governor don't make a move until the army fixes insecurity or until the police fixes insecurity. Nobody is making that argument. You're not telling a governor don't build roads because if you build roads, people are going to get kidnapped because the roads are now so good or something like that. Like
it's good for
we are not
our
making we are not making those silly comparisons. Allow the man do
Do his
what
job.
he was done or what he was
What he's there to do.
employed to do,
Yeah.
and then later on we can compare notes. I think AI can actually be very helpful, and I've always said it. We, like Kolumide said, you either wait until 5 years later and you realize that you're so backward that catching up is almost impossible,
Yeah.
or you get started now. Either way, 5 years is going to
Going to
go
go
past,
by.
and well, my people say after we've finished running, we now like compare results. So you either get started now or get started later. Either way, AI development is going to go on,
And it's going on
with
really
or without
fast.
you.
Going on
So
very fast.
which would you rather do?
Yeah, we've spent quite a amount of time I hope that English is correct, man. Oh no, man, look, that this.
And not AI generated.
Yeah, so we've spoken about this for some time. So yeah, all the best to our AI experts, everybody.
And,
I mean, a few years from now, I and Nika were just having that conversation. In a few years from now, we'll know whether AI is the next big thing or not. Time will
Yeah.
tell. I think it is. I think it definitely is. Chingozim agrees with
It's
me.
not already the big thing.
Exactly. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Lumide. It has been very insightful having you on the podcast today. Have a lovely
Pleasure's
day.
all mine. Thank you very much for having me.
To listen to the full episode of this podcast, visit podcast.techpoint.africa or search for Techpoint Africa Podcast on your favorite podcast platforms.